It's that time of year again, guys. That time families from all around the world get together to celebrate that rare event that only comes once a season. That time when we put aside our national and ideological differences and deprioritize less important pursuits to focus on that special day where friends, family, and neighbors are all in agreement. Watching a never-ending conflict that's decimated billions culminate in a heated personal confrontation where someone loses a limb or gets decapitated. That's right, I'm talking about Star Wars. And specifically, I'm talking about lightsaber duels. In 1978, we were introduced to the concept of the lightsaber, sometimes erroneously referred to as a laser sword.
I saw your laser sword. Only Jedis carry that kind of weapon.
Sometimes by people who should know better.
Made it a lightsaber, which is sort of a laser sword.
George. And we've been captivated ever since. For me, this is the part of any Star Wars story I look forward to the most. This is the part that makes a Star Wars story a Star Wars story. And yeah, I hear you. Some of you would like more Star Wars stories that don't focus on Jedi Sith so much. There's bounty hunters and smugglers and military personnel, and droids and aliens that fill any corner of the Star Wars universe, and would make for some interesting conflict on their own. And that's fine. But there's nothing quite as definitively iconic of the Star Wars universe as the lightsaber duel. You can get aliens and bounty hunters and smugglers and fit them into almost any sci-fi story without people thinking twice about Star Wars. But the minute someone pulls out a cylinder and ignites a blade of energy making that singular, distinctive sound effect, you know you're watching Star Wars. Or someone's trying. Really tried. While the weapon has taken many forms and incarnations, today I'm going to rank the 11 greatest lightsaber duels to ever grace the silver or small screens. And for this list, we're not just going canonical. Some of the greatest lightsaber duels ever have taken place in older, now Legends material. And we're specifically ranking lightsaber duels. That is, conflicts that involved at least one lightsaber versus at least one other. Star Wars has some great fight scenes that involved combat with a lightsaber against other forms of weaponry. But I'll be spotlighting duels where the primary conflict involved dueling lightsabers. Oh, and we're only doing battles that have footage we can evaluate. So no comics and no novels, even if some great stuff took place there. I heard it was great. Outside of that, I don't really have any hard and fast rules for what to include. It just has to have that certain special something that makes you say, wow, that was friggin' awesome. Suffice to say, there be spoilers ahead. So without further Mountain Dew, here are the galaxy's greatest lightsaber duels. Number 11, Obi-Wan Kenobi vs. MAUL. Blink and you'll miss it. There's never been a lightsaber battle quite as short, and there's never been one quite as poetic. Maul's final confrontation with Obi-Wan is not about show and style, but about substance. Decades of pain, hatred, and betrayal culminate in a flash of just 3 lightsaber strikes. When Maul realizes that Obi-Wan is not hiding from the Empire on Tatooine, but hiding someone from the Empire, Obi-Wan realizes in that moment that Maul cannot be allowed to leave Tatooine alive. Obi-Wan doesn't take pleasure or vengeance in the death of his former master's killer. He simply does what he must to protect the Chosen One. In the end, both Obi-Wan and the audience are left feeling sympathy for the former Sith Lord's tragic life of hatred and misery. A fitting end to one of the most dynamic characters in the entire Star Wars saga.
Tell me, is it the Chosen One?
He is.
He will avenge us.
Number 10. VIZSLA and the Jedi versus Darth MALGUS and friends. Star Wars The Old Republic's cinematic trailer, Deceived, has the only instance I know of featuring an army of Sith battling an army of Jedi. Set during the era of the First Galactic Republic, nearly 4,000 years prior to the events of A New Hope, Deceived gives us a look at the sacking of Coruscant, an invasion by a surviving faction of the Sith Empire on the Republic capital, and specifically the Jedi Temple.
They thought they had banished us forever. But now, finally, we have returned.
Even without knowing the backstory of the Old Republic, you can't help but be amazed at the sheer scale of it all. It's the single most chaotic lightsaber battle depiction of all time. The focus is on Darth MALGUS and ultimately his final confrontation with Jedi Master VIZSLA, but you got bounty hunters, you got Twi'leks, you got 100 lightsabers at minimum. It's just amazing, and it gives us one of our only looks at an era when both Sith and Jedi were the dominant forces in the galaxy. Honestly, if they do make a live-action series about Star Wars, I hope it's a Game of Thrones style epic that looks a lot like this. Because this is what I meant when I said a lightsaber duel should make you say, wow.
Rage gives us power. We will feed on vengeance until the Republic lies in ruins.
Number 9. Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader. For most people, this is the lightsaber duel that changed everything. The spoiler to end all spoilers. It wasn't often you saw the hero maimed and disfigured right before your eyes. But to also find out that the epitome of darkness was the father of the galaxy's last hope? Yeah, that hadn't really happened before. Also, the last time we had seen this guy, he had chopped our hero's mentor in half. We knew comeuppance was due, but we didn't expect it to end like this.
Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
He told me enough. He told me you killed him.
No. I am your father.
It's not true. That's impossible.
Of course, the original trilogy's lightsaber duels were from a time in cinema when fast-paced fight sequences didn't exist anywhere outside of Chinese martial arts action films. Sword fights, not in the swashbuckling genre, were usually pretty subdued by comparison. But by comparison to the last lightsaber duel we had seen, it was pretty intense. And a lot of that had to do with the emotional tension that had been built up prior to the conflict. Even so, there are a lot of cool WTF moments in the battle that make you say, WTF. I guess that's why you call it that.
Now, release your anger. Only your hatred can destroy me.
I missed seeing this duel during its original theatrical release, and by the time I saw Return of the Jedi, everyone I knew and every magazine and media organization had spoiled this moment for me. So some of the nostalgia is lost on me. But it's still a pivotal moment in the Star Wars franchise, and has probably the best Darth Vader one-liner of all time.
All too easy.
Number 8. Cao Sin and SATELE versus VINDICAN and MALGUS. Aside from some really great cowboy shoot-'em-up action at the start of the Old Republic's Return trailer, the four-way lightsaber duel between Cao, SATELE, VINDICAN, and MALGUS is the highlight of the event. Four-way duels are somewhat rare in the Star Wars franchise. I could only find 3 during my research, and I can only imagine they're impossibly tough to choreograph. These cinematic trailers were made using motion capture from real fight choreography, so the CG characters have a weight and believability to them that can sometimes be missing from CG animated fight scenes. Again, not knowing the backstory of the event in no way deprives the viewer of tension or emotional investment. You know who the good guys are, you know who the bad guys are, you know it's not going that great for either. This trailer is our introduction to MALGUS and SATELE as major players in the Old Republic saga, and one thing you'll instantly be struck with in this duel is these ancient Jedi are powerful. They lift heavy debris with ease. They coordinate attacks with precision. They don't even have to hold their lightsabers. It's just, yeah, wow. In the end, you're left trying to catch your breath because you've been holding it for roughly 3 minutes. And also, you should exercise more. True story. I once had a movie night with some friends where we watched Star Wars cartoons for about 4 to 5 hours. When everyone in the group got up and told me they really needed to get home, I wished them all good night and started playing this. Everyone sat down and stayed talking about it for another hour or 2. That's right, this trailer ruins families. It's that good.
After 1,000 years, Korriban is ours again. Welcome home.
Number 7. SENYA TIRALL versus the NATHEMA ZEALOTS. Quite possibly one of the most moving and emotionally driven lightsaber battles can be found in the Knights of the Fallen Empire cinematic trailer, Betrayed. Here we're introduced to SENYA TIRALL and her daughter Vaylin, the latter of which demonstrates frighteningly powerful Force abilities. The majority of the trailer is set up. A young girl grows up strong in the Force, but carefully guided and loved by her mother. The two are close, the two are separated, and ultimately, the mother must return for her daughter, who is being tortured for her father's own evil ends. All this is set up for a final confrontation between a mother trying to protect her child and religious zealots doing the bidding of their master.
Stay behind me.
It's almost another blink and you'll miss it type situation. The actual confrontation with the 6 zealots is short, and she dispatches them quickly and efficiently. But it's the mood of this lightsaber duel that sets it apart from all the others. It's raining, something you seldom see during lightsaber battles. Combined with the night and the high elevation, you can almost feel how uncomfortable it must be. You can see the mother's deep concern for her child in her face before facing her adversaries, and you can see the hatred that's been cultivated in the child manifest in her eyes, not to mention her mother's heartbreak. And all of this is practically wordless. I counted. There's 12 words in this trailer, and 4 of them are the girl's name. There's exactly 2 full sentences. Stay behind me, and Valen, come on. That's beyond impressive for something with this level of emotion. Honestly, I had the hardest time placing this one on the list because the emotional impact alone practically beats any lightsaber duel you can think of. It's raw, it's precise, and it's a good fight that hits you right in the feels.
Valen, come on.
Number 6. SATELE and JACE versus Darth MALGUS. Yeah, this game had a lot of good lightsaber duels. Had the trailers for the Old Republic and Knights of the Fallen Empire premiered chronologically, Hope would have given us the return of SATELE and Darth MALGUS, an epic final battle that culminates with SATELE finally given an opportunity to put the smackdown on her master's killer. It also sees the return of Jace Malcolm, who took part in the shootout at the start of Return. And Jace is what makes this lightsaber duel unique. Jace and his infantry squad make a surprise attack on the invading Sith forces of Alderaan. It goes about as well as you would expect a battle of non-force sensitive soldiers versus Sith Lords would go. Badly. Jace is incapacitated and only saved at the last minute by a superhero 3-point landing by SATELE. And you'd think that'd be the end of Jace's participation. But no, not this guy. I mean, what is it the Jedi always say when Sith Lords show up?
Stay behind me.
Captain, prep your ship. This is our fight. We'll handle this.
But not this guy. This guy takes a direct hit from Force Lightning and does this. I didn't know you could do that. So when he's rescued by SATELE, you think he'd grab a blaster and go shoot some lesser no-name Sith or just heal from all that ozone damage. But again, when SATELE is disarmed and at the mercy of Malgus, Jace decides he's gonna tackle a frickin' Sith Lord. Oh, and he does this. That's pretty hardcore. And speaking of hardcore, remember when I said ancient Jedi were apparently really powerful? SATELE blocks a lightsaber blade with just her bare hands and the Force. The freaking Force. This technique is called Tutaminis. It's basically using the Force to absorb and redirect energy away from the body. You've seen it used a couple of times before, but this is the only time I've ever seen it used to deflect a lightsaber blade. In a 3-way battle that only involved 2 Force users and 2 lightsaber blades, this is some of the most damage I've ever seen inflicted. Yeah, SATELE is bad. Number 5. Count Dooku versus the NIGHTSISTERS.
What sorcery is this?
defeat Darth Tyrannus? Well, for starters, you could sneak attack him in the middle of the night, catch him while he's groggy. Then you could drug him. That'll slow him down. Then you could hide yourself behind cloaks of invisibility. Just to be on the safe side, outnumber him 3-1. So, how'd that go? Yeah, betrayed and left for dead by Dooku and Palpatine, ASAJ Ventress seeks revenge against her former masters with the aid of Mother Talzin and the NIGHTSISTERS. And even with the help of 2 of her sisters, the element of surprise, cloaks that are definitely copyright infringement, and narcotics injected by a robot radish.
I do not need my eyes to see you, Jedi.
Yeah, it doesn't go well. Fortunately for Ventress, she was cloaked, and the stolen Jedi lightsabers they used divert suspicion that she's still alive. But this battle demonstrated just how powerful a force to be reckoned with Dooku really was. But seriously, if you're gonna attack someone using cloaking shields, do something about the lightsabers. I mean, that's like Batman wearing those little reflective stripes you put on bicycles. It defeats the purpose. Number 4. MAUL and Savage OPRESS versus Darth Sidious.
You have become a rival!
Remember, there can be only one, 3 minutes or 2 minutes. Yeah, I'll stop. MAUL and his brother Savage OPRESS help stage a coup on Mandalore, eventually taking over themselves and catching the eye of MAUL's former master. He's not happy about it. Yeah, the Sith, not big on sharing. This is one of the few battles we see Palpatine have in any medium, and it's the first time we get to see Sidious use his double lightsaber technique. And if there's one thing that's obvious from the outset, Sidious could have ended this battle anytime he wanted to. I mean, look at him. He is mocking them the entire battle. You think they've gotten a lick in, and he immediately turns that move against them. He's been in control the entire time, and he knows it. In fact, this entire battle just seems to be a way of breaking Maul's spirit. He could have dispatched Maul as easily as his brother, but clearly, he had larger plans in mind for his former apprentice. Plans that didn't include OPRESS.
Have mercy. Please, please.
There is no mercy. Do not worry. I'm not going to kill you. I have other uses for you.
Number 3. Anakin Skywalker versus ASAJ Ventress. Now, stylistically speaking, this is probably the greatest lightsaber duel ever. Genndy Tartakovsky's very Samurai Jack-styled designs for 2003's Clone Wars would later go on to influence the CGI Clone Wars series, and it fits the Star Wars aesthetic perfectly. It's a shame this series is no longer canon, because this duel tells you everything you need to know about Anakin Skywalker. The idea was to kill Anakin, thereby ensuring Ventress' ascension to the Sith. That worked out differently than she planned, and resulted in Anakin finding great power in his rage. But it's so much more than that. It's filled with little stylistic touches that make it more than just an average duel on yet another forest planet. There's tricks with the Force you've never seen used before, along with standard picking heavy things up and throwing them at people. There's a very Ang Lee sensibility to this battle in the treetops, which is something else I don't think we've seen before or since in a lightsaber duel. The giant visage of Yavin in the background? Yeah, that's Yavin 4. The Masasi Temple, the illumination of red light on Anakin's face just as he's tapped into his anger, it's just wonderful. And then there's this. We've seen one or two lightsaber duels in the reign since, but none of them capitalize on the visuals as well as they do in this scene. It's just one of the reasons why it ranks so high at the top of my list. I mean, how do you even top that? Oh yeah. Number 2. General Grievous versus the Jedi. This was actually the first appearance of General Grievous in any medium, and a lot of his personality traits and mannerisms, even his voice for the films, hadn't been decided yet. And in a lot of ways, this actually undermined the Grievous we finally did see in the movie, because this Grievous, yeah, there's a reason he had so many lightsabers. Grievous is terrifying here. Look at how they introduced General Grievous to audiences for the first time.
General Kenobi! General Kenobi!
Yes, Master Barrick.
Need immediate evac from planet Harpori. Our forces are totally destroyed. Only a few of us left. New droid, General. He's unstoppable. Can't hold out for long. General Grievous is hunting us. Must hurry!
Master Barrick, come in. Come in. Master Barrick, come in.
That's intimidating. And not only that, they showed Jedi Masters, Jedi Council members even, scurrying in the shadows trying to avoid detection. They're surrounded, they're hiding, and even their morale is shaken. And just as they're having an inkling of a morale boost,
Jedi. You are surrounded. Your army is desolated. Make peace with the foes now. For this is your final hour. But know that I General Grievous, and not completely without mercy. I will grant you a warrior's death. Prepare.
Things are bad, and the tension just continues to mount. And just as one Jedi Padawan finally breaks... Holy shit! He squished him like a Tiresian bark beetle! I know a lot about Star Wars. This battle is 50% build-up and 50% execution. It's practically perfect in every way. It's machine versus man, and man does...
poorly.
Of the 7 Jedi who started off at the outset of this confrontation, only 3 survive and none leave unscathed, each picked off by a combination of strategic elimination and open combat. For the second time in the Star Wars saga, the Jedi needed to be saved. And up to this point, we all thought Grievous was a droid. He's even referred to as a droid general at the outset, giving us the impression that he is a droid and not just commanding an army of them. It isn't until near the conclusion of the lightsaber duel do we get our first insinuation that Grievous is more than machine. A cyborg could theoretically dispatch Jedi in any conceivable number of ways, but the fact that he beats them at their own game with no force sensitivity at all shows you that for Grievous, his beef with the Jedi is entirely personal.
Darker, the coming storm grows. I fear the dark cloud of the Sith shrouds us all.
Before we get to the galaxy's greatest lightsaber duel, here's a few honorable mentions that didn't quite make the cut.
I won't leave you. Not this time.
Then you will die.
We're outmatched.
You want to run?
I learned from watching you.
Funny. The cockpit?
Now! Come on! Come on!
You can't win, Darth. If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Then I will show you the true nature of the Force.
And the galaxy's greatest lightsaber duel is Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Maul. The circle is now complete. We end where we began. It begins where it ended. That makes sense. Say what you want about Episode 1, and believe me, you have. But the film cemented elements of Star Wars canon that Star Wars fans tend to take for granted. From force pushes and force jumps to double-bladed lightsabers and iconic music, Episode 1 is as much responsible for your favorite things about Star Wars as they are for the stuff you complain about. And one of the greatest elements that Star Wars Episode 1 gave us was the rapid-paced lightsaber duel. And yeah, I know, there's a handful of you out there who still prefer this. Yeah, we don't like you. What I mean to say is, we don't agree with you. After all, if your powers and abilities are telekinesis, precognition that makes your reflexes seem faster than normal, and the ability to see without using your eyes, your fighting skills should at least be on par with these two. Lucas said that previously we'd only really seen crippled warriors, old men, and boys trained by those old men fight prior to Episode 1. What he wanted for this one was to see Jedi in their prime, while the Jedi Order was in its prime. That means it needed to have more energy and more flair than the previous trilogy. He wanted a couple of things out of this lightsaber duel. For one, he wanted at least one of the actors to be an accomplished swordsman. Someone who knows what he's doing ups the ante for the other actors and the kind of performance they have to give. So he checked that box off by hiring Scottish martial arts master, stuntman, and gymnast Ray Park to play the Sith apprentice, Darth Maul. And secondly, he wanted the actors to do their own fighting. Using stunt doubles would mean you couldn't get too close to the action, and by extension, too far to see any of the emotion in the actors' faces. By having Ewan McGregor and Liam Neeson do their own stunts, the camera was able to get in close and capture the emotions of everyone involved. And it totally works, from Maul's cruel eyes, to Qui-Gon's realization that his fighting style is working against him, to Obi-Wan's rage at his master's death. This scene works in the feels department because you understand the dialogue of the action and not just the motions. But the motions work too because Ray Park adds that extra spark of style and cocky energy that would become a hallmark of future Sith Masters created for the franchise. Even so, Darth Maul had a signature flair that was all his own. This battle would also be the first cinematic portrayal of the double-bladed lightsaber, or lightsaber pike, something we'd seen before in the comic books, but never in live action. It was Ray Park who suggested the lightsaber hilt be extended like two lightsabers wielded together to give it better handling and practicality. And can we talk about that theme? Is there any way to keep John Williams alive for another 85 years? Does he have an apprentice somewhere? Please don't die, John Williams. Love the prequels or hate them, you can't deny that the ingredients in Episode 1's final lightsaber duel come together to make something special. Even if you don't like The Phantom Menace, there's probably at least one element in this duel that you absolutely love. And that's why Duel of the Fates tops my list as the galaxy's greatest. And those are my top 11 lightsaber duels for 2019. Guys, this was really hard. Seriously, this could have been a top 20, top 25 list easily. Even the honorable mentions were hard to nail down, and there's like 7 of them. This list was compiled before The Rise of Skywalker, so if that turns out to have an awesome lightsaber duel, next year. I'll do another next year. I'm not redoing this. This was hard. I need sleep. Peace out, everyone. Remember to watch everything, share this video with your friends, and act on instinct. What could go wrong? May the Force be with you. I'm Digital Jedi, and these are the galaxy's greatest.